isn't that just peachy? Because nothing says quality entertainment like a dystopian reality check.
Could you show me the output of the analysis of the safety signal analysis you're supposed to do? And so they got back a spreadsheet showing 770 safety signals were triggered. That is mind-blowing. That is not a 3-alarm fire. That is a 770-alarm fire.
All right, buckle up because we're diving into the safety signal analysis. So someone decided to peek behind the curtain and what they found. Brace yourselves, 770 safety signals. Yeah, you heard that right. Not just one or two, but a whopping 770. I can practically hear the sirens blaring from here.
So tell us what you found and what you have found and what your conclusions are.
Well, what I found was all the data was consistent with this vaccine being the most dangerous vaccine of all time. I mean, there are more reports on this vaccine in the FADER system, which is the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. It's the official system for reporting adverse events for a vaccine. It's set up by the U.S. government. It's run by the U.S. government. And there are more reports for the vaccine than for all vaccines in history combined.
Cue the dramatic music because we're about to unveil the findings. So, after crunching the numbers, what do we have? Hold on to your seats because apparently all signs point to this vaccine being the grand champion of danger. We're talking more reports than you can shake a syringe at. The vaccine has practically broken the record books, leaving all other vaccines in the dust. And guess who's keeping score? None other than the U.S. government. Talk about a plot twist.
Again, a healthy society protects its children. That's the whole point of having a society. That's why we have civilization. Otherwise, we just let young men do whatever they want, and people rule over the rest of us. But we don't do that because we want to protect our children. And when a society ceases to make that a priority, that society ceases to exist. So this is a fight worth having.
The age-old question. What separates us from the savages? Well, apparently it's protecting our children. Because let's face it, without them, we're just a bunch of wild animals with access to weaponry. So when a society starts slacking on the whole protecting the kids thing, it's basically signing its own death warrant. Time to gear up for the fight, folks. Our civilization is counting on it.
What's your top-line conclusion about the attempt to save our kids? What is this exactly?
This is a near planetary scale psychological operation to usher in a new form of communism. And I know to some people that might sound extreme, but you know, to give a little insight, my family came from Cuba where communism happened in a flash. And I don't think a lot of Americans realize just how quickly this can happen. And we're well down the path. I would call it probable at this point.
Strap in for some conspiracy theory 101. According to our expert, the attempt to save our kids isn't just some run-of-the-mill scheme. Oh no, it's a near planetary scale psychological operation. And guess what's lurking at the end of this twisted plot? None other than a new form of communism. Cue the gasps and dramatic music. I mean, who knew drag queen story hours were the first step towards the Red Scare 2.0?
Seize his assets. Just, we don't like the guy, we can just take his stuff. So big picture, this has been tried in other countries, South Africa, for example, and over time this doesn't work. I mean, maybe you win the upcoming election in November, congratulations, but what do you preside over when you do? Is anyone actually going to be doing business in New York? What's the tax base going to look like in 10 years? Well, of course, you know the answer to that. Everyone does. And yet no one's doing anything about it. Just pretending it's all about Trump.
Let's talk about seizing assets, shall we? Because apparently, if we don't like someone, we can just swoop in and take all their stuff. Sounds like a fun game of Monopoly, right? But here's the kicker. This tactic has been tried before, and spoiler alert, it doesn't end well. Just ask South Africa. So sure, maybe you win the election, but what's left to govern over? Is anyone even going to stick around in New York for the long haul? It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck, but hey, at least we can blame it all on Trump, right?
I think the first and most important point is this. You can tell who truly has power in any society by looking at who can persecute an innocent person in broad daylight and get away with it completely. They can announce that they're going to do it, then they can do it, they can finish the job, they can impose the outrageous fines, the outrageous punishments, and they can say, I just did it. And the whole entire society, the whole system, can either look the other way or applaud. And so this is all part of the performative illusion, where she stands up there at the press conference, you know, we're the underdog, we took on the big, powerful Donald Trump.
The power dynamics of society laid bare. It's like a twisted game of who's got the upper hand. You see, true power isn't about strength or influence. It's about who can persecute an innocent person in broad daylight and get away with it scot-free. They can announce their intentions, carry them out, and bask in their victory, while the rest of society either turns a blind eye or gives them a round of applause. It's all part of the show, isn't it? The performance where the underdog stands up to the big, bad wolf. Bravo, bravo.
You know, we're fighting as hard as we can to make sure that it doesn't happen. But when the opposition party, that is, you know, the quote ruling class, owns every cultural institution, and you know, you've essentially got children locked into their indoctrination centers for more time than they spend with their parents or their religious leaders, you know, the outcome is truly horrific. You know, what we just watched with Layla Jane, the way I was raised, it would have been considered barbarism.
Welcome to the battlefield of cultural warfare, where the ruling class holds all the cards and the opposition fights tooth and nail to reclaim some semblance of sanity. But when every cultural institution is under their thumb, and our children spend more time in indoctrination centers than with their own families, well, the outcome is downright chilling. Remember Layla Jane? Back in the day, that kind of barbarism would have warranted the death penalty for the perpetrators. But alas, we've entered a realm of sleepwalking, where adults need a good shake to snap out of it.
The appropriate result would have been the death penalty for any adults involved in the mutilation of the child. But we veered into this territory where people are sleepwalking, and that's why we made this film, because really, truly, adults in America needed to be shaken awake.
Why would you allow your own children to be destroyed and mutilated? What's the thinking?
In this mass psychological operation, a lot of it has actually played out in a way where it's influenced the parents as well to believe that there's something wrong with them if they question this, that, you know, they're some kind of, you know, ideologue that's insane if they are not okay with their child suddenly deciding they're a different gender.
Let's talk about the mutilation of innocence, shall we? In a sane world, those responsible would face the ultimate consequence. But we veered so far off course that it takes a wake-up call in the form of a film to shake us from our stupor. Why? Oh, why would parents stand idly by as their children are destroyed and mutilated? Well, it seems the powers that be have convinced them that questioning it makes them the real lunatics. After all, what kind of parent wouldn't cheer on their child's sudden gender switch?
You took on the leader of a voiceless opposition party in this country. What you did is you are the ruling class. You are the ones who set the terms, who set the conditions, who control how all of our legal system and democracy runs. And then you're going after the man whose job it is to stand up for the dispossessed and the disenfranchised of this country. The message being, if you out there choose among you a leader to stand up to us, we will decapitate him. That's the message they're sending.
Congratulations, you've taken on the voiceless opposition party in this country. But let's not kid ourselves. You're the ones pulling the strings, setting the rules, and controlling the entire game. And now, you're going after the one person whose job is to stand up for the downtrodden and disenfranchised. The message is loud and clear. Challenge us, and we'll cut off the head of anyone who dares oppose us.
You can be unhappy about the border invasion. You can be unhappy about formalized racism discriminating against you and your children and your relatives. You can be unhappy about the decay of our cities and our system, the ruin of our education system. You can be unhappy about all your money, your tax dollars, your property taxes being stolen from you and redistributed to people who have no right to be here, to welfare cheats, and to criminals. And if you choose someone to stand up to all of this, watch us ruin him. Watch us destroy him. And even if he gets into office, as he did in 2017, watch us launch a soft coup day after day after day.
Feel free to be unhappy about the border invasion, the betrayal by former allies, or the discrimination against you and your loved ones. You can lament the decay of our cities, the broken education system, and the plundering of your hard-earned dollars, but dare to choose someone to stand up to it all and watch as we tear them limb from limb. We'll ruin them, destroy them, and if they manage to scrape into office, we'll orchestrate a soft coup to ensure they never forget who's really in charge. So much for democracy, huh?
You know, on the flip side of this, you've also got states like California, where we highlight in the film this child named Jaylee, where her mom refused to transition her. So you've got these parents who do step up, and what does the state do? They crush them. She's had her child stolen from her, and then in state care, Jaylee ended up committing suicide. So when another parent sees that, and they see that the state will take action against you if you oppose it, if you live in one of those states.
The heartbreaking tale of Julie and her mom, the modern-day David and Goliath battling against the state's iron grip. Despite her mother's refusal to transition her, the state swooped in and snatched Julie away. And what was the outcome? Tragically, Julie ended up taking her own life while under state care. So when other parents witness this horror show, what choice do they have? It's like being stuck between a rock and a hard place, with the state breathing down your neck, ready to pounce at any sign of resistance.
You're trapped in some job and you feel like you can't leave. A lot of them feel like there's no other option but to go along with it. And sadly, you know, we've got to build up a culture that really defends these children and produces parents who are brave enough to be warriors for these kids.
And I think warrior is the word. I mean, if you can't use force in defense of your own children, then obviously, you know, you're not free and your children don't belong to you.
Ever feel like you're trapped in a never-ending nightmare of conformity? Welcome to the club. Countless individuals find themselves shackled to jobs they despise, fearing the repercussions of stepping out of line. But hey, here's an idea. Let's build a culture that stands up for these kids, that produces parents willing to go to war for their children's well-being. Because if you can't defend your own flesh and blood, are you even truly free?
In 2020, if we change the whole rules for elections, if we change how everything's run, if we break every single law in the key swing states about how elections should be run, watch none of our secretaries of state go to jail, none of our officials, no one implementing the system. The only people who will go to jail are the ones who deign to go to court or to a legislature to seek a redress of these grievances. And then finally, watch us violate the 8th Amendment in plain view against excessive fines.
2020, the year when rules went out the window and chaos reigned supreme. Elections? Who needs rules when you can just toss them aside like yesterday's garbage? And what happens when someone dares to challenge the status quo? Oh, nothing much, just the threat of excessive fines and constitutional violations. But hey, who's counting, right? Certainly not the officials who turn a blind eye to the blatant disregard for democracy.
Right there in the Constitution, our founders feared it, deeply feared it. Watch us violate the 8th Amendment and nothing will happen, and judges will be petrified, terrified to even think of siding with Donald Trump, lest the left go after them too. This is a tutorial in who runs this society and how decayed our democracy.
Anyone watching this carefully, and watching it at all, would know both of those things. And yet, most physicians in this country lied about it, continue to lie about it, and to this day lie about it. That's the topic of another show. The point is really not to resurrect an incredibly painful moment in the country's history. It hurt even to watch that. Why are these people in jail? But to assess the cost now. So you hear, and one of the reasons I'm so grateful here is because I think you're a responsible science-based person who's practiced medicine for decades.
The painful truth that most physicians in this country conveniently swept under the rug. Despite knowing the risks, they chose to lie and continue lying about the dangers of those vaccines. But hey, let's not dwell on the past, right? It's not like anyone ended up in jail for their deception. No, let's focus on the here and now, because clearly there's a hefty price tag attached to all this deceit. And kudos to you for being a responsible, science-based individual who's seen it all firsthand.
Do we have any real sense of what the cost, the physical cost, to the country and world has been of those vaccines?
I do think we have some understanding of the cost. I mean, I think you're aware of the work of Ed Dowd, who's put together a team and looked analytically at a lot of the epidemiologic data. I mean, we have estimates for how many people have been. We have estimates now, pretty precise estimates for how many people have landed on the disability rolls.
So, do we have any idea just how much damage those vaccines caused? Well, if you ask me, we've got a pretty good grasp on the physical toll they've taken. Thanks to folks like Ed Dowd and his team crunching the numbers, we've got estimates on the body count and the countless souls now stuck on disability rolls. But hey, who's counting, right?
Of all the lies told in public over the past 10 years, and there are almost too many to count, this may be the most painful of all. It's almost hard to watch, but we're going to play it anyway. Remember this?
Make your plan to get one of these vaccines. They are safe and effective.
If there's one message that needs to cut through all this, the vaccines are safe. I promise you, they are safe and effective. Listen to Dr. Fauci.
The echoes of deception reverberating through the halls of history. Of all the lies we've been fed over the past decade, this one takes the cake. But hey, who needs truth when you've got a catchy slogan, right?
When we say that something is safe and effective, we mean it's safe and effective for everyone.
Our vaccinations against COVID-19 are safe. They are effective, and they're more important than ever.
This vaccine has gone through the necessary and rigorous evaluation that ensures the vaccine is safe and highly effective.
Of course, they were neither safe nor effective, and that was obvious right away, as people who took the vaccine continued to get, and more ominously, as some of them began to die. And a lot of them, probably people around you, got sick in ways that no one anticipated.
Safe and effective. Those are the magic words. But what happens